2 years ago, I uploaded a video where I took on my hardest challenge to date in Fire Emblem Engage while only being in Engage mode. Engage mode is a feature that'll upgrade our units for 3 turns. But outside of Engage mode, we were banned from getting any sort of XP, meaning all of our weapons had to be unequipped, all staves had to be unequipped, and dancing was very limited. The fact there's some chapters in this game that don't let you even use Engage can tell you just how difficult this challenge was. But in that video, I said I wanted to eventually try doing the challenge in the Xenologue, which is a part of the DLC waves in the game. In these chapters, we play through a new story where the main character, Alear, gets summoned into an alternate universe, where every one of our units are put into their base classes and are leveled according to the enemies in each map. This makes it so we don't really have as much freedom as we do in the base game, where we can change our units to be whatever we want them to be. The only things we have access to outside of the Xenologue is the emblem rings and bracelets, bond ranks, and inherited skills. So hopefully this will be enough to get us through these 6 chapters. This first chapter starts off the DLC with a map that requires us to defeat an alternate version of Fogado holding the Tiki emblem bracelet. And we can pick any of our units from the main game, but we are also forced to deploy new characters called Nell and Nil. These guys are dragon units like Alear, but we can't inherit any skills or rank up their bonds for emblems, so we're stuck at their base stats, which isn't very good for us. Thankfully, dragon-type characters get certain buffs for emblems. For Corrin specifically, we can use any of the Dragon Vein effects such as Fire, Ice, Fog, and Sakor. And the best part about it, we don't gain any XP in the main game when we use it, so it's completely fair game. So I decided to give Corrin to Nell for Dragon Vein, Byleth to Nil for Goddess Dance's Dragon bonus, and Roy to Alear so she could deal a bunch of damage using a skill combo that grants her up to 40 attack using Reprisal Plus and Stored Power 5. For the 2 extra units we had to pick, I of course went with Seedal because dancing, and I gave him Sigurd for extra movement. For the last unit I needed to pick, I went for Luis. And this was because his defense being 20 meant he has the highest defense out of every other unit. And if we equip Luis with the Hector emblem bracelet and inherit the skill Defense plus 3, we can bump up that defense to a whopping 28, which outperforms every non-magic enemy in the map, making Luis almost completely invincible. This also means I would have had to complete some DLC chapters to actually be able to use Emblem Hector. So I'm going to say it right now, I actually made Alear so dangerously strong during the original challenge to where she actually cannot be attacked. This made every single DLC map super easy. Thankfully, she's not all that strong in the Xenologue. For the first turn, I moved Luis downward to deal some damage to enemies and dance for him so he could go further into the thick of battle while also not being in range of the mage that outspeeds Luis since he would instantly die. After that, I moved Alear forward and blocked off the area with Dragon Vein, which, as I said, is fair game. I don't need to be engaged to use it. So after our first turn, we went to enemy phase where I let Luis get beat up since I knew he'd be fine. After that, we went back to player phase where I defeated an enemy with Alear to free up space so Luis could deal with the mage. Something noteworthy here is the fact I'm leaving both Nell and Nil in the back lines. If one of them or Alear dies, we automatically lose the chapter. The second turn's enemy phase was pretty uneventful, but on the third turn of player phase, I was able to push Luis down far enough so we could defeat the final mage in the map. After that, Luis ran out of engaged turns, so I just stood still so we could eventually gain his turns back. In that same turn, Fogado tried to fight with Alear, and that led to us taking out his first health bar. On our next turn, I attacked Fogado with both Alear and Luis, and was able to remove one more health bar before going into enemy phase, where Luis got hit with a dose of magic, and Fogado got hit with the Binding Blade to complete the first chapter in 8 turns. Luis was absolutely perfect for this chapter. For Chapter 2, we get put into an alternate version of Firene, where we meet up with Celestia, who resembles Zephia, who was an enemy from the base game. In this world, she's on our side, but Alfred and Saline are not, so we're going to have to fight them on this map that I really dislike. There are openings on every area of this map, and it's really easy for enemies to overwhelm us. Since there's so many enemies on this map, I feel sort of forced to complete this chapter as fast as I can. So this means I will have to replace Luis with the best flying units I can get in the game, Ivy and Rosado. And since we have Celestia to fight with, I gave them emblems Camilla, Edelgard, and Celica respectively. I also brought in Vale with the Byleth emblem because she's supposed to have the Fell Spirit skill, which would be really good if she actually had it. Anyways, on turn 1, I started moving my units so we could go straight down the middle of the map. I led with Alir and Celestia to get some damage dealt to the first enemies along the path, and after that I put Cedal behind Alir and Celestia to form this triangle so Vale could use Goddess Dance, and give all the sides of the triangle another action so we can get rid of the remaining enemies in our way, while also putting Alir in the front lines so she could hopefully get targeted by the enemies ahead. This was because I did not want to waste any engage time. Unfortunately, when enemy phase started, Alir instantly got her sword broken, so that move just did absolutely nothing. Some enemies were also creeping up on Nell and Nil, so for turn 2 I had Nell use a Vein of Fire to stop enemies from approaching, while also trying to get my other units into a safe spot. During this turn, I also used Vale, Alir, and Celestia to clean up the center area of the map until the only enemies standing there was a healer and a thief, which to my knowledge will not attack us. On turn 3, I brought my units closer to this top section of the map. I could have went in to attack Alfred here with Celestia, but I didn't want her to die, and I wanted to use this emblem tile so she could get her 3 engage turns back, which I was able to get on turn 4. I was also able to bring the whole team together during this turn, so I decided to put Alir on this tile that would aggro Alfred, and since Alfred has more move than any of the other enemies near him, we can easily get him to pull up right next to Alir and start attacking. This allows us to bring Rosado, Ivy, and Celestia up to the front to start dealing damage to Alfred and remove his first and second health bar on turn 6. Unfortunately, during enemy phase, Ivy got sniped, which is unfortunate, and since we're on turn 7, reinforcements started to spawn in on the top of the map, right where we're standing. So during this turn, I put all the units I could in the front and back so Nell and Nil could be protected in the middle, since they're pretty squishy and would instantly fail us if they die. Once again. Somehow we survived the enemy phase, but we only have 1 turn left until Rosado and Celestia run out of engage turns, leaving us with no units able to fight back. So I just had to rush into battle as best I could. There were 2 enemies here that weren't at full HP, so I used Echo with Celestia to take them out. I also used a Vein of Fire with Nell so the enemies would have trouble reaching our non-flying units. So thanks to the opening I created, I was able to use Rosado to remove Salene's first health bar, and then the turn ended. Now we only have Nell as a unit who can deal damage, which isn't going to turn out very well. But Alir is actually only 1 engage point away from being able to attack again. So if I get lucky, we might be able to just barely squeak in a win. And luck is exactly what we got. Alir barely even took any damage, and was able to successfully take out Salene's final health bar to beat the chapter in 10 turns. Now we're on to Chapter 3, where we travel to an alternate version of Brodia where we meet Gregory, who resembles Gris, who, once again, enemy of the main game. For this chapter, we have to travel pretty far to reach the 2 bosses, Alchrist and Diamant. The problem is, these 2 bosses are surrounded by so many enemies, so it's going to be really difficult to go into their range and not die. So initially, I tried to get this done by rushing in and trying to defeat all the enemies in my way. But the further I went in, the more enemies appeared, and I didn't really have any way to survive. So I looked at the map on triangleattack.com and checked on when the reinforcements came in. And apparently, it's not based on the amount of time it takes like the previous chapter, but instead, it's based on your placement on the map. If you pass this wall, 12 flying units will spawn in. If you pass this wall, 12 more flying units will spawn in. And if you aggro Diamant or Alchrist, 15 more enemies will spawn in. So we can't play aggressive because we'll be crowded, but we also can't play passive since we'll run out of our engage turns. So how exactly are we supposed to beat this chapter? Well, there's one way. In this map, there are enemies far away from where we can stand a part of the Mage Cannoneer class. and they're given a maximum of 8 range with their weapon. So, potentially, we don't need to worry about losing our engage meters as long as we are within range of these mage cannoneers. But when I tried this, I actually didn't get attacked. And that's because most enemies won't attack you if they can't attack you. But since I'm allowing DLC emblems in this playthrough, we don't have to worry about that anymore. One of Emblem Soren's skills is called Assigned Decoy, and just like Corrin, we can use this skill without being engaged. So now that we have an infinitely easier way to survive, we can rebuild our engage meters and play Endurance. For this chapter, I decided to bring along Zelkov with the Lin Ring, and I gave him some skills that should help him deal damage. I also brought back Luis and gave Nil the Byleth Ring again, along with also giving Alir the Crom Bracelet. For turn 1, I used Astra Storm with Zelkov to get rid of an archer that would have likely taken out one of our units during enemy phase. After that, I used Luis and Celestia to defeat some enemies on the left side of the map, and sniped an axe unit with Rosado, and had him canter to this spot so we could eventually make an area surrounding one space that I reserved for Nil to Goddess Dance on. This dance lets Rosado use Houses Unite Plus, since Byleth is in an adjacent space, and that lets him take out another enemy while also giving him another turn to take out 2 Falcon Knights. This brings us to enemy phase, where we dodge a ton of enemy hits. Oh, thank you for missing. I'm actually getting super lucky here. I may have spoken too soon. Yeah, I'm just going to quickly reroll my RNG. After that enemy phase, I spent the next few turns trying to defeat nearby enemies before my engage moves ran out. So, now that I have no more engage moves, I have to, one by one, let my units get attacked by cannoneer enemies so we can slowly build our engage meters. This is truly the riveting gameplay I paid $80 for. Anyways, now that we have our engage meters back, we can now move up in the map, fight the enemies that spawn in, and get our engage meters back up, rinse, and repeat. So once we got rid of all the enemies, I started to set up my units for my ultimate attack. On turn 135, I moved Nil 2 spaces away from Alchrist and rallied so Rosado could use Houses Unite Plus and gain an extra action. This lets me use Rally Plus with Alir, and then use Zelkov for a Mulagir Astra Storm attack on Diamant to get rid of his first health bar. This only deals enough damage when I'm standing next to Alir though. This is because Alir's personal skill, Divinely Inspiring, grants +3 true damage to any adjacent unit. After that, I danced Nil, then used Rosado to get a low % hit on Alchrist to activate Flame Gambit. After I had all my units in Goddess Dance formation, I had Nil use Goddess Dance so each of them could get another turn. Once I did this, I made sure to move around my units so I'd have an open space to attack Alchrist with Zelkov, since I would have much better odds. During enemy phase, Zelkov was pretty much the only unit that was being attacked thanks to Assigned Decoy, and this lets us take 0 damage throughout the phase. And on the next turn, I gave rally bonuses to Rosado and Zelkov so we could take out Alchrist easily, and use Raging Storm with Rosado to lower Diamant's second health bar to 1 hit. This gives us an opening to use Warp Ragnarok with Celestia to remove Diamant's second health bar. So now with 2 more Rosado moves left to go, I decided to move downward to heal up so Rosado could live, and then I had Seedal dance next to him so we can fly up to Diamant and beat the chapter in a very long and well-deserved 136 turns. Now we can move on to the next chapters, which are a part of the series, which means we have 2 battles to complete in a row. This doesn't really change anything though, I just had to do some setup and go into chapter 4, Clash of Queens. This chapter brings us to Illusia to fight Princess Ivy and Tamara, and I'm pretty sure this is the only map in the entire game to actually have yellow enemies. And this is just a 3rd team on the map who will not only fight us, but also fight the other enemy team. This means, potentially, we can just Dragon Vein to wait for all the enemies to fight it out. Or not. Dang, I thought I ate too. Anyways, for this chapter, I do think camping back like this is a viable option for us, but we're going to have to fight back too. So I just need to find a way to deal damage from far away so we can camp for the whole chapter. So for turn 1, I assigned Zelkov as a decoy, rallied him with Alir, and stood next to him while he Astra Stormed so we can instantly remove 1 health bar from Ivy. After that, I made a Vein of Ice with Nell so the nearby enemies would only be able to attack Zelkov. So after a few turns of pretty much doing the same thing, accidentally getting Zelkov killed, resurrecting him, and then having him run out of engaged turns, Ivy started to move downward in the map and also spawned in wyverns. So this is the turn where we can finally engage with Rosado and start shooting down the wyverns so they won't get in the way of our plans. I also had Gregory assign Zelkov as a decoy so he could gain his engage meter back. Another turn done, and we're completely safe, and Zelkov almost has his engage meter ready. So for this turn, I gave Nil an extra health bar since I had someone using Emblem Tiki, then I took out some more wyverns with Rosado, and right after I Goddess Danced so Gregory could take out some enemies with Cataclysm, and then I ended the turn. Like usual, we all survived an enemy attack, and right after, I decided this was the perfect time to beat the chapter. I started by checking the distance I'd have to go with Ivy in order to deal damage, and I found that we would be one space too short for us to deal damage to Tamara. So, to fix this, I just gave her Thunder from Celestia's inventory, then Warp Ragnarok straight towards Tamara. This brought her down to 1 HP, which I was able to shave off by moving Ivy as far as I could using Seadoll's Dance. After that, I finished off her second health bar using Astrostorm, and after that I had Gregory use Bolting to deal some damage to Ivy and finish her off with Rosado to beat the map in 7 turns. After that chapter, we instantly get put into the next chapter where Nil becomes evil and locks Alir in the cage. So now we can't use Alir for this chapter, and Nell is all alone in a room with a triple health barred Nil that we need to defeat in order to beat the chapter. Unfortunately for us, Nil is an actual good unit now, and on top of that, this is an absolute beast of a map with 900 spaces. And we don't have much time to do anything here. Alir and Nell will always be attacked, and after we lose our engaged turns, we just won't be able to heal them. But I have a solution. In 2024, YouTuber Adeline showed a strategy to get past this chapter in only 1 turn. So here's the strategy. Marigold is the only character in the Fel Xenologue who is a part of the hero class, and this means she will be able to use the skill Brave Assist, which allows us to deal 2 extra hits as long as we are close enough to the enemy. And the only way to actually get close to Nil would be to equip Celica and Warp Ragnarok over there. But since Marigold is the first person to land a hit in this chapter, we'll need to use that to our advantage by inheriting the skills Draconic Hex from Corrin, which gives -4 to all basic stats, and Anima Focus from Soren, which will give various effects based on what kind of magic attack is used. So because Ragnarok is a fire tome, Nil's resistance goes down by 4 and his defense by 7. After the debuffs, it'll be in our best interest to use Citrine with her 27 magic, and giving her Soren so she could actually reach Nil and remove 15 of his resistance with Flare. But there's still a problem here. Once we attack Nil, he'll spawn in enemies that'll one-shot Nell, which is always a lose condition. So to get past this, we will need to somehow play safe enough to actually get into a spot that'll give us enough distance to attack and actually do enough damage to Nil so we won't have to worry about dying in 1 turn. So I tried the same strategy Adeline had in their video, and I did some pretty good damage, but it just wasn't quite enough. I feel like I did everything I could too. I even had Hortensia carrying a bond ring that gives her the skill Spur Attack. I even gave Mavier the Crom ring so he could rally Citrine, and Vale still was able to use Goddess Dance to buff her. But I suppose that's just not gonna be enough. So instead of just following the guide, I think I should just build off the idea. I don't need to beat the chapter in 1 turn, I just gotta eventually get it done. So here's the plan. Instead of instantly rushing in, I'm going to let a turn pass by so Nil could attack Nell and give us some more leniency with our approach. So for turn 1, I attacked an enemy with Citrine, missed the attack, then defeated him with Zelkov. After that, I moved Vander closer to the fighting, and that's because I gave him Emblem Veronica, which has a similar move to Dance, where she can give someone an extra turn, but they won't be able to move during that turn. Anyways, I finished off the turn by attacking some more enemies, and then went to enemy phase where Nell got attacked, but lured in Nil, and Panette was also used as bait for enemies to attack. So after that enemy phase, we can begin our player phase by warping Marigold to Nil, removing 6 defense from him, Then I moved Mavir into a space where I could rally Citrine to give her better stats. Then I moved Zelkov out of the way so he could use Astro Storm next to Veil to deal 45 damage to Nil, and then I had Nell use Raging Storm on him to deal more damage. But she missed, so instead I moved Hortensia into the space right next to where I wanted to attack with Citrine, and took out Nil's first health bar with Bolting. After that, I danced Citrine with Seedall so she could use Bolting again. Then I used Goddess Dance with Veil to give her another chance to attack with Bolting, and then I used Dance with Seedall so she could attack again. But before I attacked, I went back to Nell so she could finally use Raging Storm. That was perfect! I'm excited. Okay. This is it. Boom. Okay, I move over here. I'm gonna contract Citrine and Soren. We should have just enough space to hit the shot with less damage, of course, but it's fine. Okay, we hit both chain attacks. We win. No way. Okay. Houses unite. 100% accuracy. Oh my gosh, that was rough. And with that, we can finally move on to the final chapter, 7 Bracelets. This is probably going to be really difficult. A huge map with a ton of high-leveled enemies is definitely going to be challenging. Well, no. Nope. This chapter isn't difficult at all. That's because 2 years ago, YouTuber Nesmonto uploaded a video where they beat this chapter in only 1 turn. And this is because of the map layout. All of our units spawn in right next to Nil, but none of them can do any damage. And this is because he has a really high defense stat, but it might be possible to fight back against Nil, even with that high defense. In this chapter, Alir is given an upgraded version of the Liberation. This gives us plus 15 attack towards Nil, and on top of that, if we equip Emblem Roy, we can get plus 10 attack with Sword Power 5. And if we inherit Reprisal Plus from Veronica, Holdout plus will keep Alir alive and give her more attack the lower her HP is. If we add on to this by using Spur Attack, Fell Protection, Rally Spectrum, and Instruct from Byleth, we can bring Alir's total damage to a whopping 101. So if we remove 7 defense from Nil using our known debuff combo, we can bring his defense down to 79, meaning at our best, Alir can deal 22 damage to Nil, and he only has 2 health bars. So let's see if we can do this. All we have to do is defeat Fel Nil. I'm gonna start out with Poison Gambit, Rally with Mavir, Veil over here so Alir can do more damage. Now I gotta Warp Ragnarok over here so I can debuff Nil. Cool. -7 defense. Now we can start attacking. And we do 3 damage. Okay? No damage. 3 damage. Okay. Alright, I'm gonna move Rosado over here so we can contract Alir. And now we do 16 damage. Alright. Oh, we actually hit one of the Brave Assists. Dance Alir. And then move him off to the side to create the triangle. Now we do 32 damage. That's pretty good. We get another chain attack. Cool. Alright, hold out, keeping Alir alive, and letting her do more damage. Now we can use Panette to Goddess Dance. This gives Alir +4 strength, and then Quality Time as well, also keeping Alir alive. Alright, first health bar, down. Alir still needs to be able to move, and we need to, of course, use Quality Time. Alright, 44 damage, that's so good. That's half of his health. Alright, 21. 1 HP, 23. Okay, all we have to do now is heal up Alir with Quality Time. Contract Alir for the final hit of the game. Cool. 2 chain attacks. What? Frazzle Plus. Hit Alir in the face. 5 damage. And that's the game. We have officially beaten Fire Emblem Engage's Fail Xenologue while only being in Engage mode. This challenge is one of my favorites. If I could do it again, I would, and I probably will in the not near future. And since the Switch 2 is out, at some point whenever Nintendo updates 3 houses, I will be doing the Zero Move Challenge. I'm still adding notes to see if I can do it, but for now, that's all I got.